On February 19th, 2013, City Council approved a roll cart collection program that consists of 35, 65, and 95-gallon capacity roll carts for weekly collection, in addition to an on-demand option. The on-demand roll cart service was designed for low-volume producers and is limited to the use of 35-gallon capacity roll carts. The on-demand roll carts will be equipped with colored lids that distinguish them from the roll carts that are collected weekly. Staff was directed to take the steps necessary to implement the roll cart collection system. Before council this evening and in the council's packets are a number of documents, both in legislative format as well as the clean version, so you can see some of the changes that were made necessary for implementation of the roll cart program, as well as a request for a proposal received from Sanitation, Inc. regarding the roll cart program and its costs. We first have an ordinance amending the Moscow City Code with an effective date of August 1st, 2013, which coordinates with the implementation of the roll cart program, followed by the request for a proposal for modification of services received from Sanitation for the roll cart collection system. And then we have some amendments to the solid waste franchise agreement as presented to the Public Works Finance Committee on March 25th, 2013. With that, I would welcome any questions.
Tom?
Use of roll carts in addition for a mixed recycling product, for example. Let's say we decide to go with that. What I'm wondering is, do we then need to do again started? I guess what I'm thinking is that if we are to advance our recycling program more than what it is right now, and people then reduce their waste, I'm trying to figure out how all of it's going to line out, from a timeline perspective.
I would presume that we would go through the same steps, probably not as in-depth, but go out for a RFP for a modification of services and then amend the curbside recycling portion of the franchise agreement.
Okay.
Gary?
If I may, from a practical standpoint, implementing a mixed recycling program is pretty perfunctory, and as Tim indicated, we'd follow the same process under the franchise that we already have in place. The discussion of mixed waste or mixed recycling is one that, as you know, is going to take, it's a way different recycling program than we have today. Certainly it needs to be vetted out by the Sustainable Environment Commission, and so although that may be in the offing in the future and bears discussion, this franchise isn't set up specifically for that mixed recycling at this point, but it can be done.
So just as a follow-up, what does our current agreement allow us to open it back up at some point if we chose to do that, and give us the time? I mean, do we have the time within this agreement to allow us to make that change if we choose to do that?
Please.
Certainly, we have the same option that we used in this case. Our Exhibit A calls out the process for making modifications. We send out a request for proposals. It's responded to in the same way that LSI sent our what you see in your packet today. So it's a fairly short process. They have a certain amount of time to respond, but it can be done in fairly short order. As with this case, once we did all the work, Tim and LSI did all the work to respond. Now you have to order the carts, you have to put the implementation schedule in place. So yes, we could do that in fairly short order.
Okay, that answers my question. Thanks.
Okay. Other questions for Tim? Yes, Dan.
Yeah, following along with Tom then, Tim and Gary, I guess, how quickly can we move forward with the term single stream recycling, and the roll carts for it? I mean, do we want to take a little break for a bit to let this start working right, or can we just go ahead and jump right in, so kind of get this implemented, in a more quick fashion, I guess?
I just so council understands that once we get the okay to move ahead with this project, that's when the work begins.
Right.
There is a ton of work to do to get these things on the ground and get everything situated, and from my perspective, I would like some breathing space.
Understood. That was where I was going.
The vetting process, as far as a commingled recycling system in itself, could take some time. I would expect it to take some time, but from my perspective, I would really enjoy some breathing room.
I appreciate that. Thanks.
Wayne?
Well, then, along the same discussion lines, perhaps once this is put together and let it work the rest of the year, if we get it implemented by August 1st, and perhaps by spring we can start looking at a single-stream recycling system.
Absolutely.
At the latest.
Absolutely.
Okay, looks like Sue has the follow-up.
To be the voice of dissent here, I having been in a business where we recycled and reused a lot of wine bottles, and of course we get a lot of the magazines from that industry. In several states, glass is recycled and reused, where here, if it's dumped in single stream, that may not be the case that that gets recycled. So I would like to see the benefits and the pros and cons versus before you just jump right into single stream.
As an aside, I like your idea, Sue. Gary, you have something to add to that?
Yeah, my comment is merely that we didn't give appropriate notice that single-stream recycling was going to be discussed tonight.
Yeah.
So I would invite, if the council desires to move ahead with an initiative like that we notice it up and do what needs to be done. But would like to get this, I know Tim's excited to get this program in place, so if we could get that done, that would be great.
Sure, and give the mayor time to write her memo. Tom? Tom?
Thanks. I just wanted to be clear that I was just primarily interested in asking about the portability of the current agreement and making sure that there's time and so forth.
Okay.
Thanks.
Tim?
Thank you, Mayor Cheney. Tim, I want to thank you and your department for all the work you've done. I want to thank staff for all the time and effort they put in this. I want to thank Latah Sanitation for working with the city of Moscow. And all that having been said, I'd like to move that we approve the ordinance amending Moscow City Code with an effective date of 1 August 2013, which coordinates with the implementation of the roll cart program under suspension of the rules, requiring 3 complete and separate readings, and that the ordinance be read by title and published by summary.
Second.
Okay, we have Tim's motion and Tom's second. Any discussion before voting on that? Okay. We'll start this roll call vote with you, Dan.
Aye.
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 Okay, the motion carries. So that's ordinance number 2013-7, an ordinance of the City of Moscow, a municipal corporation of the State of Idaho, providing for the amendment of Moscow City Code Title 9, Chapter 9, amending the city solid waste ordinance to accommodate the city's roll cart solid waste collection program, providing that the provisions of this ordinance be deemed severable, and providing for this ordinance to be in full force and effect from the date of its passage, approval, and publication according to law. And the next item on your agenda, Tim, it says here, approving a request for proposal for modification of service received from Latah Sanitation, Inc. for the roll cart program. Would you like to say anything more about that?
I would just say that the numbers, excuse me, for the cost of this program, when we last discussed these costs was back last summer, and I was very happy to see that the costs had not changed but a couple pennies in a year's time. So with that being said, I was very pleased with the RFP, and I thought Latah Sanitation put together a great package.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Gary, yes, please.
Yeah, I just want to echo Tim's comments that when this package came to the council last summer in a less formal setting, the discussion at that time was for an exclusive franchise. We spent some time on that, followed the process. Since that time, the ordinance has been, or excuse me, the franchise has, the city has elected to extend the franchise the last 10 years of the 30-year total. LSI has done a phenomenal job in doing, I think, really yeoman's work in keeping the prices where they are. They're very competitive. Tim's looked at it. Don and I have reviewed it. We're anxious to get ready to go. So, and we're very pleased that they responded well within the time frame. Less time than it took than was allowed under the ordinance or under the franchise agreement. So, we think it's an excellent proposal.
Okay, and I know the Public Works Finance Committee was probably chaired by Walter, who has a long-anticipated excused absence this evening. So who else was, who can speak to that? Yes, Gary.
Yeah, the Public Works Finance Committee has not reviewed this proposal.
Okay.
And the reason was, and we informed the committee of that at that time, as their direction was to move this ahead as soon as possible, that if the response came and it could be put on council, that it would be forwarded at that time. So following that direction, that's why it's here tonight. Now, all of the other aspects, the ordinance change and all of the agreement changes are included and have been reviewed by Public Works Finance on March 25th.
Mm-hmm.
So,
okay, so who on that committee would like to speak to this tonight? Anybody? Okay, I saw a hand up over here. Wayne, was it yours?
I wasn't on that committee at that time.
No, Tom and I
Okay.
were.
Dan? Did you? I was
Yeah,
just
I-
noticing some hands down here, yeah. Yeah, I'm really afraid to call on you, Dan. But go ahead, go for it. Let's
Yeah,
test this
we
out.
did review it, and I would make a motion that we approve the request for the proposal of modification of service received from LSI for the roll cart collection program. And can we include the amendments to the franchise agreements in this motion?
You know, we have these as three separate
We have them
items.
as
or,
a separate item?
We actually
Okay.
have them.
Then I'll just leave it at that.
I'll second his motion.
Okay.
if I may as well.
Please,
I'm sorry.
yes, go ahead.
And that should read, and this is my mistake, it should be approval of the response
The response for the.
to request for proposal for modification. I'm
Oh,
sorry, we
right.
just left a word out.
Okay, is the maker of that motion
I'm
agreeable to that?
amenable to that.
And the seconder as well. So Dan's motion and Wayne's second. In discussion, would you like to do whatever you had your hand up?
I
Wayne?
just wanted to comment that I too was pleased when I read their response, both in the response itself, the numbers that LSI put together, as well as how expeditious they were in getting it back to the city. We've got a really long relationship with Latah Sanitation, many, many, many years, and I look forward to continuing to seeing that continue.
Other discussion? Okay. Anybody need the motion repeated? You have it? Tim, we'll start with you.
Aye.
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 And I.
Okay, that motion carries. And Dan, would you like to follow up as you started to do with the third
Sure.
one?
I'd like to make a motion that we approve the amendments to the solid waste franchise agreement as presented to Public Works Finance on March 25th and as outlined in this packet.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have Dan's motion and Wayne's second. Any discussion of that item? Tom?
Well, I just wanted to make a comment that I'm hoping that moving forward with these new carts and new containers and this effort will help to keep trash in the trash cans and out of Paradise Creek. We certainly recognize that a lot of the stuff that ends up in Paradise Creek each year is there because garbage cans get blown around and rolled around and stuff comes off of people's front yards, and so it'd be nice to see this move forward in the spirit of the upcoming Paradise Creek cleanup that happens next Saturday. I'm excited to see us take a step to try to keep our town a little bit cleaner, our creeks a little bit cleaner. So just wanted to add that comment before we vote.
Sure. Any other discussion? Would anyone like this motion repeated? Okay. Dan, we'll start with you.
Aye.
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 Okay, that motion carries as well. Thereby, the amendments to the solid waste franchise agreement are approved.